Happy 2025. Welcome to my year in review and 2024 makes. I'm going to be going through every single thing that I made over the last year. I just want to preface this, as I always do, that this is my full-time job, and I would also say sewing is my hobby. I did make a lot of things in 2024, a lot less than in previous years, but still 64-ish items is quite a significant amount of things. So without further ado or waffle, let's have a look and see what I have made over the year. First up is one of my favourite makes from last year, and it's the McCalls 6800 coat, and I made it in a red wool that I got from Lady McElroy or from Sherwood's, and I lined it with a cotton silk fabric covered in biscuits, chocolate biscuits from Spoonflower, and I interlined it with cotton flannel because I prefer the finish that that can give me, and I also love the extra warmth that that adds. This is an absolutely gorgeous coat. I'm over the moon with how it turned out. I think it's beautiful. I love how it's been made. I did a lot of tailoring techniques. I used this book for all of my tailoring techniques. I highly recommend it, and I will link to it in the description down below. Usually the description of this video ends up being really long, so I will probably end up with a blog post on my website with all the actual descriptions, but that will be linked in the description down below. I am over the moon with this. It is, however, a incredibly heavy coat, and it's also a very warm coat because of all the layers that I've said that it's got in it. It's got interfacing in there as well. I have worn this a few times because it's not really been cold enough in the UK to wear it frequently, which is really sad. But I'm so glad that I've made it, and it's a definite contender because I've been trying a lot of the different coat patterns that I have in the hopes that I can find one that I absolutely love, that I can then splurge on some Harris tweed, which is £60 a metre, to make the ultimate coat of my dreams. I already have the fabric picked out, although I have seen a different colourway that I love as well, so it's going to be one of those two. But I want to make sure that I'm making the right coat with it. So whilst this was not an inexpensive coat, the wool itself was, I think, £20 a metre. It's definitely one that I wanted to try and see if I liked it, because the previous iteration of this coat was a much shorter version, which was definitely not for me, and it's one that hopefully I'm going to be altering this year and taking you guys along on the process of. So happy with this coat, love it. I do have a lot of this red wool left over, and I'm going to be making a much lighter weight outer garment with the leftover wool so that I have something that is appropriate for the slightly milder weather that we do have in the UK. Next up was a project that I'd had cut out in 2023. This is the 9345 shirt, and I had enough fabric left over from cutting out the 8144 dress. I made a maxi dress out of it, and I had enough to cut out this shirt with the giant sleeves. I love this. I've worn it a couple of times. I don't really wear separates all that often, and I do have an idea for making this shirt more wearable and versatile in my wardrobe, which does mean that I would need to make up some of the solid pieces or solid suiting fabrics that I've got. I've made some of those up over this year, which you will be seeing in a second, but there are a few colours like the navy and the tan that I think would go really well with this shirt as well. So I've worn it a couple of times, but not very frequently. Next up is my first fail of the year. I took the wool coating that I had and decided to make myself another princess coat. This will be the third Gertie princess coat that I've made. I only had enough for kind of like a peplum length, and I thought that was going to be absolutely amazing and look great on me, and I was all just like, you know, yep, this is going to be fabulous, don't need to trial it, it's going to be great. I don't like peplums on me. This is the second coat that I've made that's kind of like this kind of hip skimming height, and I just don't like it. I don't know what it is about this coat, but I've never worn it, and it's a bit of a fail. I have got plans to rescue it, and I'm hopefully going to be doing that later on this year. So first fail of the year, and probably will end up in my top 5 fails, because I always do a TLDR version of this video if you don't want to watch through a good sort of like 40 minutes. I think the longest one was an hour and 40 minutes, but that's because I waffle a lot. So let's move on to the next one. So the next piece I made was actually a commission for the very lovely Nicola from All About the Outfit, and it was her denim A-line skirt. I think she loves the result. She's been wearing it an awful lot. I have 3 more skirts to make for Nicola from various different fabrics that I just haven't gotten around to since, and I can't quite believe that it's actually been a year since I made her last one, so I definitely need to pull my finger out and get that done. Next up we have the start of the Anaconda and Thesis collection. This is the New Look 6080 jacket, and I made it in a rayon cotton suiting blend from Sherwood Fabrics, Lady McElroy. I love this little jacket. There is a sew along on the channel for the 6080 if you want to make your own. online, and I also talk you through how I went about fully lining that jacket because it is an online pattern. Another part of the capsule collection was a 3/4 circle skirt. This is in the same suiting as the jacket that you've just seen. So this was a really quick skirt to make, and I absolutely love how it's turned out. And again, there is a tutorial on the channel for making a 3/4 circle skirt. This was the first piece of the Anaconda Anthesis actual print that I have sewn up. I mean, technically it was the lining of the cream coat that you saw earlier, but this was the leftovers from that project, and it's the Lena lining. So it's a polyester crepe that I get from Sherwood Fabrics. It's a Lady McElroy print. I absolutely love this print and have it on many different backgrounds that you will be seeing later in this video and also this year. I decided that a 3/4 circle skirt in this fabric was the best use of this fabric because I really don't like polyester next to my skin. I have lined this one with a half circle skirt in a viscose lining, so I've got a natural fibre next to my skin and then I've got the polyester on the outside, and that's worked really well. I made a lot of these 3/4 circle skirts from this exact same pattern. This one is a polyester viscose blend that I got from Textile Express. Usually I would avoid a polyester blend viscose because I really just don't like wearing it next to my skin, but it was the perfect print and colour, so I decided to give it a try, and I'm really glad that I did because again, this one I have lined in viscose, so I don't actually have any of the polyester next to my skin. I love the colour, I love the print, and it's worked really well. I've said this many times, but stripes, polka dots and checks and ginghams are basically neutrals when it comes to prints, so they work surprisingly well with a lot of the loud florals that I have, and this yellow colour is actually really versatile in my wardrobe and something that makes me really happy to wear, so I'm very happy with how this skirt turned out. Next up we have this two-piece, so it's a top and a skirt. The first piece I made was the skirt and it's a half circle. I do like this, but it is not my favourite. If I had had enough of this fabric I would have made another 3/4 circle skirt. I bought this fabric ages ago. In fact, I think it was a present from my brother and sister-in-law for a Christmas or a birthday a couple of years ago, so I only had 3 meters of it. It wasn't available to purchase any more of, so I decided that I really wanted to have a skirt and a top, and the only way that I was going to get that is to do a half circle skirt, which you can see here with the Vogue 9006 top, which is something that I love and you will be seeing a lot of this year. Next is the McCalls 6891, which is also a butterick pattern. There's a full sew along on the channel for that, and again I will list to it all in the description. This is from that poly viscose blend, and the entirety of the dress is lined except for the sleeves. I have not worn this because I really just don't love the sleeves. I put sleeves on this because it was meant to be a layering piece for the capsule collection, and it was meant to be layered under a dress that I'd made previously. I wanted to have the sleeves poking out from underneath of it. I'm not a fan of restrictive clothing. I don't mind really tight and fitted bodices, but I want my sleeves and my skirts to be as floofy as possible to give me the biggest range of movement that I can possibly get from those items. The sleeves on this one are just that little bit restrictive, and they are also made of a poly viscose blend, so they were very hot making the few times that I put this on. It's still in my wardrobe, and I think what I'm actually going to do is take the sleeves off and just finish the armholes and make it into a sleeveless dress, which all my other versions of this shirt dress are. And going forward I will be putting on the sleeves from this top, because this top does come with sleeves, which I have altered to give me more floof and freedom of movement. I think that way this dress will then get worn, and I think it will actually be something that I reach for frequently, because at the moment it just feels really restrictive, which if I put clothes on and I feel even a little bit uncomfortable in them, I take them off because I know I'm just going to be miserable throughout the day. We have the first sew along dress of the year. This is the Vogue 9076, and this is the basic version of this pattern. I've been threatening a sew along for this dress for ages. This is the 4th one that I've made. I've filmed 2 previous sew alongs for it and hated how they turned out, so I was determined to get it right this time, and I'm really glad that I decided to go down the route of just the basic dress. I say basic, I've made a lot of alterations to this pattern to get it to end up going together the way that I like and then looking the way that I like. I love how this dress has turned out. I do want to make one change to this though. I've got very lazy and I put on very beautiful small little mother of pearl buttons. There's 4 on each each cuff and then 5 up the center front. I think that was a mistake. I think I need to go back and do self-covered buttons in a tan colored viscose that I have plenty of, and I need to put little brown self-cut, like tan self-cover buttons on to this dress. I think it would make it pop and it would bring out those details just that little bit more. Other than that, I'm really happy with this dress. I have worn it a couple of times. I really enjoyed putting the sew along together for this one. Like I say, third time's a charm. I'm really glad that I did persevere and I ended up with a sew along that I was really happy with. I do have a half finished outstanding dress from the same pattern, but this time with piped details, and I'm going to be putting that video out very soon of how I do piping and how I put this dress together with piping, although the techniques from this video will be applicable to any pattern that you wanted to use, which is why I didn't try and smoosh it all into one sew along. So that dress is coming very soon, and it's tantalizingly close to being done, so I can't wait to show you guys that one. But yeah, very happy with this dress and very happy with the first sew along of the year. Next up, we have 2 handbags. I was getting ready for the KB sewing retreat. This year I made the Dulcinea. I very much like the look of this bag, and I do very much like the final bags that I got from this pattern, but I did make a lot of changes to it, and I have been totally spoilt by using lavender and twine patterns. Erica is amazing, and she is so thorough with her combinations of interfacing and fabrics that you want to use. This pattern just kind of said medium weight, and like it didn't even give you any suggestions for the types of interfacing that they'd used for the types of fabrics that they'd put into their samples. So I've made 3 of these, and I still have another one cut out and ready to make up to test and sample a different type of interfacing, because I'm happy with all of them for different reasons, but they were a bit of a nightmare to sew. I'm really pleased with the final ones that I've got done, and I'm really pleased with the combination I came up with for everyone who came to the retreat. I think everybody really liked their bags as they made them. The Lisa Chandler and Duck Egg Blue faux leather one, I love the print placement and I love how this looks when it's being used, so it's got stuff in it, but I didn't use enough interfacing in this one. And then I have this one, which is Harris Tweed and a faux leather that I got from Textile Express, and I used 2 heavier weight interfacing in this one, to the point where I thought I was going to have to cut it apart and rescue all of the hardware and remake it, because I didn't think I was going to be able to finish it. I did manage to get it done, and I'm really pleased that I did, because this is the bag that I'm currently using at the moment and I love how it looks and how it's holding up. But yeah, that was not the most fun bag that I've ever sewn, but those were the next 2 things that I made ready for the sewing retreat. Then I started working on some of my Make 9 projects, and the first one is the stereo sweater from Miss Susu Patterns. I'd bought a couple of pieces of French terry from Lily and Mimi's closing down sale. The palm print one on this sweater was one of them. I only had a little bit of it, so I knew I was going to have to colour block and piece it together with complementary fabrics. I really love the stereo sweater. This is the second one that I've done. This time around I've added a 2-inch elastic to the bottom of the sweater in the waistband casing that you do put on the sweater, but the previous one, which is a labyrinth panel, I didn't add the elastic in there, and it kind of just hangs, and it is a bit big, so I decided to add elastic into this one, and I'm really pleased that I did, to the point that I'm actually going to go back and unpick overlocking to put elastic into my previous sweater. I really like this set. I think this set is really nice, and I do wear these things. However, they're really muted colours. They're definitely more on the autumnal scale of things than they are on the spring side of things. I like really bright, vibrant colours. Whilst I love these pieces, I don't feel fabulous wearing them. I feel a bit meh wearing them. The tan Ponte that I got from the fabric room is one of my neutral colours. It's maybe a little bit more muted than the tans in the spring palette, but I don't know, they're all just a bit subdued for me. So whilst I'm really pleased that I got these done and ticked off of my Make 9, I haven't worn any of these religiously, apart from the jogging bottoms I've worn quite frequently, but that's because I love the style more so than the colour, and I now have 4 pairs that I rotate frequently when I'm having kind of like a comfy days, so like editing days. They're nice. they're not my favorite. The next one that I made was the 8145, which there is a sew along for on the channel. Again, same thing. It's nice. It was a remnant of fabric that I got from Lily and Mimi. I had slightly more of this one so I could use the print in a larger pattern, which is why I went for the 8145. I think it's really nice. I like this one slightly more because I can put brighter colors right next to my face because it is a v-neck, whereas the other one was kind of like a funnel neck. But they're not my favorite, and I actually do think I'm going to de-stash those and put them up for sale, or well, I'm going to offer them to friends and family first and then either put them up for sale or donate them to the local charity to make room in my wardrobe for some much brighter colours that I have in similar fabrics, so I can make myself some loungewear that is actually reflective of my personality. So I'm pleased that I got it done. I'm glad that I got these things ticked off of the Make 9, because the jogging bottoms, the 7634, were also, and again, sew along on the channel for that, they were on the Make 9 as well. So yeah, I'm glad that I got those 3 things done, but they are not my favourites, and I don't think I am going to be keeping any of them. I was definitely on a mission to start on the Make 9 or Make 18 that I had for this year, and I wanted to get through my essentials one first so that I could do the indulgent one second. It made sense to me that way, and so I got working on some of the shrugs that I wanted to make, which is an out of print pattern, McCalls 7289, and I made 3 of those at this point. One in this kind of sagey green, one in blue, and then one in a much more expensive yellow knit. All of these fabrics were from Pound Fabrics, and the green and blue ones were I think £9 per meter and slightly narrower, so I did have to have 2 meters to be able to get the pattern pieces on to the length of fabric that I had. The yellow one I did buy 2 meters and it was £12.99 a meter on Pound Fabrics, and I bought 2 meters but I only needed 1, which means that I've got some of that yellow fabric left over to make something else, which is good because I love the yellow one the best out of those, again because it's a brighter color, more vibrant. I absolutely love this pattern. I'm wearing one today which is in a different fabric altogether, which you'll be seeing later on. I've never actually made it up in one of the recommended fabrics. I have gone rogue and made it up in fabrics that I want to make it in. Yeah, I love them and I wear them frequently. They're a great cover up. They finish right at my waist. Most of the dresses and stuff that I wear does nip in at the waist, and a lot of the cover ups that I have kind of cover that part up, whereas this I think accentuates it nicely. So I really love this pattern. Next up we have another Make 9 make, and it is the Rigel bomber jacket in the tan ponte that I had left over from making the previous jumpers and the jogging bottoms. This time I have lined it with a dark green fluffy jersey that I got from Guthrie & Ghani years ago, and some lining fabric for the sleeves so that the sleeves are easy to slip on and off. I have got a full sew along for fully lining the Rigel bomber jacket because it is an unlined jacket, but for these kind of things that I'm going to be wearing over layers of other clothing, I just want to have slippery sleeve linings at the very least, and it's really quick and easy just to add a lining into the body of the jacket. I got the ribbing from an Etsy shop which I will list to you in the description down below. It's really kind of bland. I think I don't dislike the colour, and I have worn this cardigan or this little jacket quite a lot. I tend to wear it as a cardigan down here when it's cold. So this has been worn, as well as the jogging bottoms, way more than the 2 jumpers that you saw previously. But again, I want to make this in a brighter colour. I think the ribbing saves it. The ribbing is really like a rich brown with a very yellowy kind of orangey yellow stripe and then the ivory stripe in it. I like this, but I don't love it, so it's not my favorite make. It's not a fail by any means, and I have worn it quite a bit, as I say, but it's not my favorite. I want a more vibrant color of this little jacket, so there will be more of these made because I do find it useful. I just find this one a little bit boring to put on. Next up we have a tie front shirt, which is from the outer print pattern, the Butterick 5895, which is a Gertie pattern. If you can get hold of it, highly recommend it, although I will say the shirt is incredibly cropped and I have added 2.5 inches of length to get it to sit on my natural waist. I had 5 meters of this fabric. It was a viscose linen. I think I got it from Guthrie and Ghani, possibly Lamazi. I got it quite a few years ago and I think it's absolutely gorgeous. I bought 5 meters and I've made the dress that you can see here, but I had enough left over and big enough pieces but not like full length of fabric to get this little shirt out of the excess. And I like doing this because I like making kind of low cut cleavage-tastic revealing dresses, and then having a matching shirt that goes over the top means that I can make those dresses slightly more daytime appropriate, because this dress that you're seeing next was actually my birthday dinner dress for the gala dinner that I do at the sewing retreats. So it is quite a cleavage-tastic dress, but yeah, having the little shirt to go over the top just makes me really happy and makes the dress more versatile in my opinion. So yeah, I really like how both of these pieces turn out. The dress is the Vogue 9887, and again there is a sew along on the channel for that dress. One of the things that I do like to do at the retreats is have a couple of the finished bags to show people the different like combinations that you can make from it. I also like to have a bag that is partially made, so I'll have the outer completely constructed and the lining completely constructed. That way people can see what they're aiming for. So I did have this bag, which you're seeing now, at the retreat in pieces, and after the retreat obviously I wanted to finish it up. This is another bag that I have worn quite a lot. The tapestry fabric was from my trip to Ibiza for my friend's wedding. I made my very first book tote with that. I had leftovers and I've still got enough left over to make a matching wallet. Then the denim was left over from, I think, the very first capsule collection that I tried to do with Cobra Corsage back in July 2017. I had a bunch of leftovers from that as well. So I absolutely love how this bag has turned out, and I've used it a lot over the summer. It's definitely one of my favourites. At the retreat I did say to everybody to not buy me birthday presents, but the very lovely Nimue saw this kit at the local fabric market that she went to. It was a panel of fabric that came with pre-printed pieces that had borders on them and the instructions printed on the panel. You could cut it apart and either make a singular bag, or if you're like me and thought that the lining that they intended you to use was far too pretty, make 2 bags. So I have 2 of these giant shoppers with lots of leaves on it and semi-naked ladies, and I agree, Nimue, when you saw that and you were just like, that's a Shan bag, this is definitely 100% a Shan bag. And I have one in my handbag and I have one in my luggage, and I absolutely love it and I use it loads. So thank you very much for such a lovely present. Next up we have the 3rd iteration of the Holston skirt that I have made. Whilst I love this one and I was really hoping it was going to be successful, it's an ivory and sage coloured striped fabric, but it's a really fine pinstripe fabric. I like it, but it's so muted. I don't think it's very me. I really wanted to make that Holston skirt with some striped fabric because of the interesting style lines on it, and they just blend into the background in this one because the stripe's just not defined enough or not thick enough. I've seen some new fabrics that I want to try that skirt with. Again, I'm determined to get an iteration of that skirt in a striped fabric that I wear frequently. I wear my turquoise denim one, I love it, but again, you can't really see the interesting style lines in that turquoise denim. So yeah, this skirt was a bit of a fail and I've already passed it on to mum, but yeah, it's definitely not survived in my wardrobe. Same for the shirt. I love the idea of the stripe with the solid collar and turn back. It's the Vogue 9345. This is one of those shirts that I cut out frequently because the pieces are so small that you can fit them onto like the odd offcuts that you get from doing something like the Holston skirt. I just don't like it on me. I think that whole outfit with the sage coloured cover up as well looks really bland. Yeah, it's not my favourite, and it's definitely one of the bigger fails from the year. Next up though is a success. This is the McCalls 8177. There is a sew along on the channel for this. I bought 6 and a bit meters of this fabric because I fell in love with it in 2023 when I saw it in my local fabric shop. Went back last year and they had 6 and a bit meters left of it. I was just going to buy 5, but when I saw that little bit left on the bolt, I was like, oh, I'll have the lot. And I'm really glad that I did because it meant that I could get 2 dresses and a top out of this fabric, which you will be seeing. Love this, have worn this. I do want to make more of this 8177 dress because it's really simple and quick to make. There is a sew along, like I say, on the channel, and it is really lovely to wear as well. So yeah, very happy with that one. As I say, I had quite a lot of this fabric, so I made another 9006. This is a top that I wear frequently, especially with my denim skirts. I really like how it looks with this one. I also think this is going to look amazing I am determined to try and make myself a pair of pencil or like a cigarette style trousers, 7/8 length, to wear with heels. I think this would look amazing with navy blue ones, of which I have a lot of suiting back here in navy blue, so I do have plans for trousers. But yeah, I absolutely love this top. I've made a lot of this top. Again, this is the second one I think you're seeing. There's many more, and I love how it turned out. Next up is another tried and true project. There's a lot of tried and trues this year. I definitely was sewing from a kind of like security blanket kind of thing of like, I don't want to make things that aren't going to fit me, because my weight was fluctuating a lot because of like hormonal reasons. I wanted to make things that were going to make me feel good, and things that I have made previously and that I wore a lot. So this fabric I had bought at one of the shows. I think it was from Fabric Godmother. I bought it at the same time as I bought the stripe that you saw earlier that was a fail. This one I think is much more successful. It's the 7974, which is a dress that you guys have seen me make loads and loads of times. I love how this one's turned out. I have put some of the pieces of the gingham on the bias so that it gave some interest to the midriff and the yoke of this dress. Because it's a high contrast dark green with ivory, I think it's worked way better than the paler stripe. I love this dress. I've worn this dress. I'm keeping this dress. I will be making more of this dress in the future because I love the bodice so much, and I can do so many different things with the skirt and the sleeves to give it different looks. And there is an entire video talking about how to make a pattern work really hard for you. Very happy with this one. Love how this has turned out. This was the last of my 180 coconut shell buttons as well. I've had to buy more. Next up is the Deer and Doe brioche shirt in a double gauze. This was an experiment. Loads of people told me I was stupid to make this shirt in a double gauze because that's not the purpose of double gauze. I bought the double gauze fabric from Higgs & Higgs at a show years ago. It was for the Savannah collection, so we're talking probably like 2019-ish. I bought 3 meters of it. It's the one with the gold dots on it. It was one of those ones where it was just like, it's the right colors. I love the texture of this fabric. I've never worked with it before. I don't know what I want to make with it. Everybody said, oh, it's got to be big and light and breezy and airy, you know, few seams as possible kind of a garment because of the nature of the fabric. They're not the kind of garments that I wear or enjoy wearing. So I was just like, well, you know what? I'm going to trial and error this because I have a really expensive Robert Kaufman cotton flannel that I want to make the bruyere shirt with because of the marketing image that they've used. I'm a sucker for that, and I was just, this is the closest I could find to that check. I wanted to give it a try because I haven't made a bruyere shirt for a while. Previous one that I made was in the mulberry cobra corsage, which is the wrong color for me, so that one has been passed on. I wanted to try one that was in a better color, like I say, a different fabric, and I actually really like how this has turned out as it's styled in this twirl. I have not worn this shirt since that twirl because in my head the brioche shirt actually could be a shirt dress, and the very first one that I've made, I didn't lengthen the peplum of it. I just lengthened the bodice by 2.5 inches. I thought that the proportions of my mulberry cobra corsage one were slightly off, so I lengthened the peplum of this one, and now it is basically a mini dress. I was fully prepared and had on my make 9 to make leggings this year. I have chickened out of it because my weight's fluctuating so much. I only have 2 fabrics back here that are appropriate for leggings. I don't want to make the wrong thing with them because I don't think I can replace them. They're wet look legging fabrics I got from Girl Charlie, so I know I can't get the exact same ones again, and so I've kind of psyched myself out. I like in theory the bruyere, but in practice I've not actually worn this one. One thing I will say is with all the thicknesses of fabrics for the button bands and the cuffs, I decided to go with press studs rather than trying to put buttonholes in that fabric because I just thought buttonholes in that many layers of double gauze would be an absolute nightmare. I'm really glad that I didn't attempt it. I love how the press studs look. I went for gold ones. They do rattle a little bit when they are not pressed together, but when they are actually fastened, you don't jingle when you walk, which is awesome. So I think I need to have a look at that shirt and shirt dress and try styling it a few different ways because I think it could work for me. And again, this is what I want to make with this fabric, but I'm guessing myself because I haven't worn it since I've made it. But looking back at it with that dark denim skirt, I really like how that looks. So that one's one of those kind of like, am not sure about it once. Next up is the skirt portion of the 9345 in this bright yellow cotton twill. This one is incredibly in your face and very, very, very bright. It's definitely like a neon yellows. Probably again it's more of a winter yellow than it is a spring palette yellow, but I love it and I actually have worn this quite a few times. I also have a Sorrento jacket cut out of this that I cut out at the same time, so in May, and it's still sitting on my desk waiting to be sewn up, and it's one of the projects that I want to get to this January. The 9345 is one of my favourite skirt shapes. It's slightly more voluminous than the A-line, but still skimming enough that I can get it out of small amounts of fabric, and I really, really like how it looks. And it's one that I make frequently, yes. So very happy with how this turned out. Have worn this quite frequently. So having not liked the previous 9345 shirt, little tie front shirt in the green stripe, this is the exact same shirt in the leftovers of the Anaconda and Thesis buttermilk cotton lawn that I made the 8577 out of, which you'll be seeing soon. And I love this shirt. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. This one, again, it's on a very muted background, and I think possibly this would be better on me on an ivory background rather than this biscuity colour, but I love it. It's got snakes and bugs all over it and flowers, and it's really pretty, and it's a print that I love. Worn this one, I've kept this one. This one's going to survive in the wardrobe, and I will be wearing this year. Another 9006. This is a viscose fabric that I got from the Gold Hawk Road. Bought 3 colorways of it. I've made an Eve dress, and then I have made a couple of sets from this blue one, and then also what I'm calling the ginger colorway. This is the Holston skirt in the turquoise denim, which I really love. It's the same one as that green and white striped one, which I don't. I really like how this top has turned out, and I have made, as I say, 2 tops and 2 pleated and gathered skirts from this fabric because I thought it would be nice to have interchangeable pieces. I'm not sure that that's worked. I think I would have done better to make dresses out of those fabrics rather than the separates. I have worn all of them, but not frequently because I am definitely much more of a dress girl than I am a separates girl. Given that I had enough fabric to make dresses from those prints, I probably should have done that rather than separates, but never mind. We've got another 9006, this time in a cotton silk blend with sunflowers and daisies all over it that I got from Stitch Fabrics. I fell in love with this print. It's got really lovely texture to it, kind of like a honeycomb texture as well. I would have bought more of it if they'd had it, but I got the remnant of 1.1 meters of this fabric, so I have put it in the stash for the longest time. I nearly made another cowl neck top with it that I went crazy and made a bunch of previously, but it wasn't quite wide enough for that cowl neck top, so when I tried fitting the pattern pieces from the 9006 on it and they fit on, I was over the moon, and I love how this has turned out, and I have worn this quite a lot, and I do really, really like how it looks with the yellow polka dot skirt. I think that's gorgeous. So yeah, very pleased with this one. And I did do a full sew along for this pattern showing you how to fully line a top like this, because the first one that I made this year, which was the brown polka dot one, was unlined, and it's okay, and that's totally fine. And if you don't mind an unlined top, you can totally follow along with the instructions, but I prefer fully lined tops, so that's what I did. That sunflower top was in preparation for a very scary project that I've been putting off for a while, and that was working with this Dolce & Gabbana pineapple silk. This was for So Fruity month, and I did get it technically sewn up in June, but I didn't photograph it until after June, I think this year. No, I think I did manage to get this one photographed and up on Instagram in time for the end of the challenge. I think I managed to squeak that one in. I love how this has turned out. I've done an entire video about working with silk and some of the tips and tricks that I've got to make the process slightly easier. I love the pineapple top. Next up is the top that I'm wearing, the little shrug. This is another McCalls 7289. This time it's in a viscose jersey. I love this colour so much that I think I bought myself 3 meters of this viscose jersey. Usually I only buy 2, and again you can just about see all the other colors that I've got down there. I had enough to get this little shrug and 2 t-shirts from this fabric. I hate how I look in these twirls. I have got a slip underneath of the t-shirts, which is why it looks like there's like a line where the facing is showing, as a couple of people asked. It's not the facing, it's actually my slip. Yeah, I really like prints because they hide a multitude of sins. Plains, there's very little to hide behind, so I saw these twirls and was just like, gosh, no, I don't like that at all. But I have worn all of these pieces individually, so yeah, I don't know, I was just having a bad day when I filmed. But so I've got the shrug, the gable tee, and also the Renfrew tee. Also in this twirl you can see the Vogue 9345 skirt that I'm currently wearing today, I promise, in the emerald green denim that I got from Empress Mills at the show a couple of years ago. This is actually quite a thin denim. I bought it with the idea of making ginger jeans. I had 2.5 meters of it. I'm really glad that I didn't attempt that, because I think it would have not looked great and also not felt great in that pattern. But the skirt is actually perfect and I love it, and I've worn the skirt loads. Worn the skirt way more than I've worn the t-shirts out and about. Very, very happy with the skirt, and I absolutely love the colour. This next t-shirt, however, was an utter fail. I had a little bit of this ivory cotton jersey left over. I bought a meter of it for the underlayer of the 7319, which I usually make out of a viscose jersey, but I like the underlayer to be a cotton jersey because it's just a little bit more and structured. So I had enough left to cut out the wanted tee. I was convinced that this was going to be absolutely epic. I love the square neckline, but I didn't have enough of the fabric left for anything but these really short sleeves, and I just don't like this t-shirt on me. It's not my favorite. I haven't worn it since. It's actually still hanging up here, and it's definitely one of my utter fails from the year. I'm really sad about that, because in my head it was going to be the staple piece, the backbone of my like casual wardrobe. No, don't like it, hate how it looks on me, and I'm going to pass it on to the first friend or family member that says yes please, I would like it. So having had something of a disaster, it was very nice to have a win, and this is yet another Vogue 9345 cropped tie front shirt. Again, I made a lot of repeats last year. This was the leftovers of the Liberty Carline cotton lawn that I bought quite a few years ago as a very kind of like extravagant present to myself. I bought 5 meters of it, made an 8577 from it, which I absolutely love, and I had enough left over of like big enough pieces, not full yardage, but big enough pieces to get this shirt out of those remnants, and I'm so pleased with how it turned out. I've worn this quite a few times over the warmer months and I absolutely love it. It's definitely one of my favorite shirt patterns, and it's definitely one of my favorite fabrics that I've made that shirt pattern up in. Another tried and true, another firm favorite, the 8577, this time in the Anaconda and Thesis cotton lawn. You saw the little tie front shirt from the leftovers of this dress earlier. Whenever I buy a Lady McCalls cotton lawn like this, I tend to buy 5 meters of one of these prints. I have like an entire cubby hole pretty much up here of Lady McCalroy cotton lawns in 5 meter lengths, and my go-to default setting is always an 8577 because they fit me well. I wear them frequently. I absolutely love them, and I feel like they show off prints really well. They have got a lot of pieces in the bodice, but the giant skirt really shows off a print. Yeah, it's definitely my default go-to setting for those kinds of fabrics when I buy them. I am promising you that for 2025 I am only making 12 TNTs. I'm not going to do what I did in 2024 and make repeats of the same thing over and over and over again. I want to be a bit more adventurous with my sewing this year. I definitely don't need as much comfort sewing as I did last year, so there will be some variety on the channel this year, I promise. This was our little mini heat wave, and I knew I wanted to make this dress from this fabric. The very lovely Brie sent me 10 meters of this gorgeous viscose from Spotlight Australia. The idea was it was a dress for me, and there is enough for a shirt for Dad, and there's probably enough left over after that of a little tie front shirt of some kind for me from the remnants once Dad's shirt's been cut out. This is the McCalls 7945, of which there is a sew along on the channel, and I absolutely love how this has turned out. This is a fabulous dress to wear in very, very high sticky heat because it does have ties on it that kind of come from the front panel at the waist, but you can leave those loose so it's not really cinched at the waist. As you have seen, that is my usual style and preference and silhouette, is to have things that are very kind of defined and cinched at the waist, but when it's really, really hot, that's definitely not what you want to be wearing. We don't get heat waves very often in the UK, but the few times that we do have them, it's nice to have a couple of these dresses to be able to throw on and to just feel comfortable in. This is the second one that I've made. The only reason it's the second one that I've made is because every other fabric that I've wanted to make this from has been a light background fabric, which would have meant that it would have needed to be fully lined so that it wasn't see-through, and as I say, it's supposed to be worn in the hot weather, so I want to wear as little as possible underneath of it. This fabric was perfect, and it's got like every single animal you can imagine on there. There's flamingos, there's parrots, there's panthers, there's elephants, there's all sorts, and I love how this has turned out. I wore it a couple of times in the high heat, and I am very much looking forward to wearing it again this year, and I'm hoping I'm going to be going abroad somewhere hot this year, so I will definitely be taking this one with me. I love this, it's one of my favorites, and thank you so much, Brie, for sending me the fabric. It's fabulous. I just love it. Thank you so, and it is still available, so I will link to it in the description down below, or at least it was the last time I looked. Okay, so this is that kind of abstract fabric that I was talking about earlier. You saw the blue top. This is the ginger colorway, and it's the 9006 top and a pleated and gathered skirt, of which there is a sew along on the channel. I actually really like how this looks. I do think this is a nice outfit. I just think that I'm only ever going to wear it this way. I did try it with a mix and match, as you could see in this next twirl, with the blue colorway on the skirt and then the ginger colorway on the top. It's okay, but it's not my favorite. Having said that, I am very pleased that I've got the separate tops to wear with some of my other separate pieces, but the skirts, I don't think I will wear the skirts with anything except their matching tops. That just in my head kind of means that I probably should have made dresses from those lengths of fabrics. I don't think the combos that I went for were the right combos to have gone for, but you know, you can't win them all. We have the final piece of the kind of like orangey gingery floral fabric that I got from Hellasys. As I said, I had 6.5 meters of it, so I got the 8177, the 9006 top, and then this 5951, and I love how this has turned out. I really like this dress. It's a vintage style dress from Butterick. I don't think it's actually a vintage reproduction, but I think it's definitely got 1940s kind of like lines to it. I love the sleeves with the kind of big poof at the top and then some gathering at the bottom of the sleeve. The sleeves actually have little darts at the bottom to give some detail there, and then there is gathering into the bust darts or the underneath waist darts as well. You can't really see any of those details on this fabric because it is so busy. I don't mind that though. I think it's really, really pretty, and I love how this has turned out. I've worn this quite a few times. I love the 5951. I actually have, where is it? There. I actually have a bunch of fabrics down the bottom here that I've only got enough to make something like this dress, because I can get this dress out of 2.5 meters of narrow fabric. So there's some amazing prints that I couldn't resist, but I also couldn't buy more than like 2.5 meters of that are gonna end up being this dress, because I love it, I wear it, and I'm really, really pleased with how this one turned out. So I have like an autumn winter appropriate dress, I have the spring summer strappy sundress, and then I've got the little top as well that I can wear all year round. So very happy with the 3 pieces that I got from my 6.5 meters of fabric. So technically I have 66 items written on my list. 2 of those items were my 2 days that I spent making up all the scrunchies that I had cut out over the years from the leftovers of fabrics that I've been making up and putting into a box, thinking, oh, I'll get to that eventually. And for some reason in the middle of August I decided that I wanted to work my way through this box so I didn't have any outstanding projects. So I got 34 scrunchies sewn at the end of August. It took me 2 days. I am so pleased that I did that project though, because I now have scrunchies that go with some of my dresses that I didn't have before. I am a matchy kind of girl, so I like my accessories to match my clothing. The pattern that I use is from Threads Monthly, which again I will link in the description down below. It was really nice to work on that project. It's one of those procrastination things. I clearly didn't want to do something else, and so I did the project that's been sitting there looking at me for years, literal years, and it felt really nice to get those all done. Next up was an experiment. This is the By Hand London Anna bodice with whatever I had left over from the piece of fabric pleated and gathered into a skirt. This was the first of my border print experiments, and I have one more piece to make, and then the video is going to be coming out very soon. I really like how this turned out. It's definitely not as full of skirt as I usually prefer, and it's probably not the most amazing skirt I've ever made, but I had 2.1 meters of this fabric, so I am amazed that I ended up with anything that I liked from that cut of fabric. I bought this because I thought it was the same overall print with a different border on it to a fabric you're going to see in a second, and when it arrived it's similar and exactly the same colours, but it's not exactly the same print, and I had a plan to merge the two together to make like this epic dress. The prints are different enough that I thought if I get this wrong it's gonna look like I've made a mistake rather than I'm putting two prints together. Yeah, it just wasn't quite right, so I didn't really know what to do with this 2.1 meter of fabric, but this is the dress that I managed to get out of that cut and I really like how it looks. Next up we have the Vogue 9265, which was a sew along, and I love how this dress looks. I hate how this dress feels. The print is absolutely gorgeous. It's a Lady McElroy print, but it is on a polyester double georgette. I think they have listed it as. Oh my goodness, I hate it. Absolutely hate it on me. I have fully lined the bodice, I have fully lined the skirt, but the sleeves are unlined, and even wearing it for those twirls just made me very uncomfortable. I do not like the feel of that fabric on me. I bought it because I saw Josie from Experimental Space make that print up into, I can't remember which blouse it was, but it's really gorgeous and it looks amazing on her, but oh my goodness, I should have known better. I shouldn't have bought polyester because it just makes my skin crawl. So I'm really pleased that I used the fabric up and I used it to make a really pretty dress. It worked really well for the sew along. It's a semi sheer fabric, so I could talk you through some of the ways that I put the pieces together so you don't end up with really visible seams, so that you didn't end up with really visible zipper tape at the back. I've ended up with a sew along that I'm really pleased with, and I love the dress, but I just absolutely hate the fabric, and it is still down here on the rack and it is going to be going because yeah, I will never wear that. But I wish that they would bring that print out on a viscose or a cotton lawn or both, and I also wish that they would do it on a couple of other colorways as well. That on an ivory background or a dark navy blue background would be absolutely stunning. Whilst I like the way the dress looks, I absolutely hate how the dress feels, and it's a definite fail, although I love the actual pattern and we'll make more of it. We have the second border print experiment of the year, and this is the fabric that I thought was the same print as the previous one. As you can see, it is definitely not. I had another print that you're going to see in a second that I wanted to make this dress with, so I wanted to double check and experiment with this one because this and that previous 2.1 cut that you saw, I had 4 meters of this one, 2.1 meters of the other one, and it was £17 for all of that fabric from the textile centre. I have a much more expensive viscose border print that's coming up that I wanted to make this dress with, but I wanted to try out the print placement and the border print placement before I cut into this other expensive fabric because I didn't want to make a mistake with a fabric that I couldn't replace and that was much more expensive. I really like how this one looks now. So when I first finished this dress and put it on without any styling, makeup or anything, I felt really frumpy in this one. Mum and Dad went nuts for this dress. They thought I looked absolutely amazing in it. They loved it. They were just like, yeah, that's absolutely brilliant, fabulous. But it wasn't for me. Once I had put some effort into styling it, and a majority of the clips that you're seeing for the twirls, I tried to put as little styling into them as possible, so there's as few accessories to let the actual garment shine. There are some exceptions to that because there is no way that I wouldn't wear some of these things without a belt, but this one, for example, you definitely don't need a belt over the top of it. I just like belts and wear them with nearly everything. So once I'd actually styled this one up, I felt much better in it, but my initial reaction was just like, oh gosh, no, which did make me question whether I should make the next border print up into this pattern. But I'm really glad that I did because I think this one, now that I'm looking back at it, is fabulous, and I also really like the floral border print which you'll be seeing either next. Yes, next. I really like how that one turned out as well, so very glad that I experimented with this. Someone did point out that you have kind of got eyes on your boobs, and I hadn't noticed that until the person pointed it out, and I'm not gonna let that stop me wearing it, but it was one of those things which is like, I see what you're saying. I hadn't noticed it, but I do see what you're saying. So yes, anyway, that that blue one was an experimentation of print placement for this border print. This is a fabric that I have made 2 outfits from now. One is a trouser and top set that I absolutely love, and Mum loved the fabric so much that I actually went back and bought her 4 meters of it, and it's sat in her stash ever since for a good sort of 5 years because she didn't really know what to do with it, and it was a very bright, bold colour palette. So we've done a swap. Mum has ended up with one of my other border prints which is much more muted in tone, and I got this one, which I am so pleased about because it meant that I could make this dress. I was definitely inspired by this Karen Millen dress, and I absolutely love how this has turned out, and I have worn this quite a few times since I've made it. Just over the moon with this one and how it turned out, and I'm really glad that I finally plucked up the courage to cut into this irreplaceable fabric that I've had in my stash for years and just hadn't really been confident enough to cut into until I saw the Karen Millen dress that I fell in love with. Then in November I had a small panic attack and realised that I hadn't really gone through very many of my Make 9/18 projects. There were a few that were made up, some were cut out, but I really needed to pull my finger out and get some done. I've had this rose print fabric from Stitch Fabrics in my stash for ages, and I'd bought 3 meters of it, and I really wanted to make a Victory Patterns Jackie dress with it, but I just didn't have enough by about ½ a meter. So I went for the Vogue 9199, and I love how this has turned out. This cotton jersey is absolutely amazing. It's so thick and it has such factor in it. I love this dress. I feel really comfortable in this dress. It's nice and warm. I'm super pleased with how this one turned out, and I'm technically classing this as my Jackie dress from my Make 9 because if I'd had enough fabric I would have made the Jackie, but I didn't, so the 9199 is what got made instead. And then I made some more shrugs because I love them that much. The first one is this green one, which was made from a merino wool that I was gifted by the very lovely Mel all the way from New Zealand years ago. It's a really beautiful fine merino jersey, but my skin is really sensitive, so it's really scratchy. For the longest time I was thinking I was going to like make a Paola turtleneck like base layer because it would be a nice warm piece of clothing that would look fabulous, but every time I held it up to my skin it was just like, it makes me itch, and the idea of having a close fitting t-shirt out of that fabric just it would look amazing. I just never would have worn it. So I kind of got a little bit stumped with what to make from this piece of fabric. And then I made so many of these. I was just like, oh, I should make another one of these. I'm really glad that I did because it's perfect. It goes over the dress that you're watching it over. It goes over loads of other things. It goes really well with the colours in my wardrobe because it's such a big sleeve on this pattern. I can wear it over my bigger sleeve dresses and it will fit over them really nicely. That means that I don't end up with any of the fabric touching my skin, but I end up with that layer of warmth. So I'm super pleased with how this one turned out. And as I mentioned, I love these shrugs so much, and the previous ones that I've made over the year have been so successful and worn so much that I went back and bought a couple more colorways of both the waffly texture, which you can see here in this burnt orange, and also the much more expensive cotton jersey fabric that I got in a chocolatey brown color, both of which work really well with my wardrobe. The orange did look a little brighter on the website. This is from Pan Fabrics. I was a little disappointed with it when it arrived, but it's still a warm colour and I still think works really well with my wardrobe. And then the chocolatey brown one is absolutely gorgeous. I've worn it loads and loads of times. It goes with so many things. Really pleased with that one, and I wear these so frequently. I want to go back to Minerva and buy some of the other colours of this fabric base that are going to go really well with my wardrobe. There's a tealy greeny one and then a red one that I really would like to get, but I will be waiting for Minerva to do a flash sale on their knits because it is an expensive fabric. And then we have my December makes. I had grand plans for November and December to get my Make 18 finished and try and get some new projects done as well, and that did not happen. I always underestimate how much work Vlogmas is. So I got a few things done, one of which is this Vogue 9006 top. I had bought 2 of these scarves from the Silk Route at one of the Festival of Quilt shows probably about 4 or 5 years ago. They came with like bound edges and I think you're meant to use them as scarves, but they were just so pretty. They're the offcuts of saris, so they had like the little embroidered motifs down them. I I really wanted to try and do a long sleeved version of this top with this silk because I thought that would be more versatile for my wardrobe, but unfortunately I only had 2 of the scarves and I could only squeeze out the cap sleeve version of this silk top. I love this. I just really love this silhouette and this style of top on me. This neckline is just my favorite, and I really like the kind of tie-dye effect on this silk. Very pleased with how this one has turned out. You're seeing it today with my denim green skirt. This is not necessarily how I want to wear this one. I think I mentioned earlier that I have some navy suiting back here. I want to make a little cropped jacket and a skirt with some of it, but then I think I've got 7.5 meters of navy suiting in 2 different styles back here, so I also want to try and make some cigarette style trousers, and I think this top with those trousers and the little jacket over the top of it with some high heels would look fabulous. In my head, in reality, on my body, I have no idea, but I would like to give it a try, which is something that I am going to try and attempt this year. So very pleased with this top. Not necessarily how I want to style it with the skirt, but it is the best thing that I've got that matches with it at the moment, and I wanted to show it off. Then we have another tie front shirt, again the Vogue 9345. I absolutely love this shirt, and I was gifted this amazing cat print fabric. I had an agreement with the very lovely Catherine that I was going to send her some offcuts of some remnants from some of my fabrics that she could use for pocket linings, because Catherine had sent me a couple of her offcuts of some of her cat prints that she's had from this year. So I showed her the black cat fabric and she was just like, yes, perfect. So I was like, right, I need to cut the shirt out of it first so that I can send you the remnants. I only had enough fabric to cut the shirt out and there were no decent sized remnants left over. So whilst the shirt is epic, it didn't actually give me the thing that it was meant to, which was pocket sized remnants. So I then moved over to the other cat print that I had in my stash that I bought a couple of years ago with the idea of making a shirt, and it's this news print, and both of these are quilting cottons. I absolutely loved this print when I saw it. I am so pleased with how the shirt has turned out. Again, 9345 tie front shirt. It was kind of one of those things where it's just like, I've agreed to do something for someone, so I need to have the thing to do it. I can't just cut a piece of this fabric off and send it to Catherine, because what if I end up with, like, you know, that much too short for one of the ties or something, so I have to cut out the shirts first. In my head that logic works, so that's why I have 2 very random cat print fabrics made up into shirts, and I love how both of them look. They're both absolutely gorgeous. I love the little green buttons on the black one because the eyes on the black cat heads on that one are that bright green, so in my head that worked really well. One of the reasons that I got all of those cut out is because I was working through my zero waste project, and one of the parts of the zero waste project was a little tie front shirt, because as you have seen over the year, I usually buy 5-meter lengths of prints that I fall in love with, and I can usually squeeze some kind of a little cropped shirt out of it. I did do one of the Gertie shirts, but predominantly they have been the Vogue shirt instead, because the pattern pieces from that Vogue shirt are actually smaller than the Gertie shirt. The front piece of the Gertie shirt is all one big piece with the grown on collar and the grown on tie front, so those pattern pieces sometimes don't fit on the kind of like random little leftovers that I have. But the zero waste project was another 5-meter cut of cotton lawn, this time from Stitch Fabrics. I was determined to use every single scrap of this fabric, so I got the 8577, which you'll be seeing in the January's lookbook, because whilst I started sewing it in December, I did not get it finished in December. Thank you, Flu. I had a bunch of other projects that I also got sewn, so loads of hair accessories, a bookmark, and one more project that you'll be seeing in just a second. But after cutting out the giant dress, I then had enough left over for a small shirt. So the very last garment I sewed in 2024 was another 9345 tie front shirt, this time out of the rose print fabric from my zero waste project, which will be coming very soon. And I love how this has turned out. It's absolutely gorgeous. This fabric is just so beautiful. I kind of wish I'd bought more of it. I think they did another colorway with kind of red flowers rather than the pink ones. If I ever see that at one of the shows again, if they ever happen to find a bolt of that, I probably would purchase it again, because it is just that beautiful. I promise I'd do something different with it other than an 8577 and this shirt. I absolutely love how this shirt turned out. I really enjoyed the entire process of doing a zero waste project with this fabric. The very final thing that I have to show you is living just over here. 2X. So whilst this wasn't actually the very last thing I got sewn this year, it's the very last thing I'm going to show you, and it's my shoulder dragon. I think we have decided to call him Ziggy. He's definitely a him, despite the fact that he is pink and floofy. He's definitely a him dragon. He is a Simplicity or BZ Arts for Simplicity pattern, and he is actually a shoulder dragon. He does intentionally sit on your shoulder. I love him. He is made up with offcuts of the rose print fabric. So once I cut out the dress, the shirt, the bias binding, I then went through and took out the pattern pieces for this little guy and cut all of his bits and pieces out. After that, I went through and did the hair accessories, bookmark, lanyard and key fob, all of which you'll be seeing in the Zero Waste project and actually weren't added to this list. So technically I've made a few more things this year. And then whatever was left over and any offcuts from clipping corners, pinking armholes and stuff like that from the dress and the shirt has all gone inside of this little dragon. So he is stuffed with himself, basically. He is stuffed with all the remnants that were left over from the Zero Waste project, all the buttons as well, the button offcuts. I made a bunch of things from this fabric. I love him. He is absolutely gorgeous. I'm so pleased with how he turned out. He is very day glow. He is very over the top. Little punk with his little extra floof here. And I added horns and wings to this little guy. The ones that I've made previously didn't have horns or wings. I think he's epic. To the point where I actually want to make more of these guys and put them up on my website for people to buy, with the proviso that these are not for children. These are definitely not appropriate for kids. Yeah, a little kittenish behaviour stuffy or plush or shoulder dragon stuffed with the remnants and offcuts, because I make lots of remnants and offcuts from all the stuff that I make. I love him. I'm so pleased with him. He is the last thing that I have to show you from 2024's makes, and I think he's gorgeous. I'm so pleased with him. He is living on my mannequin next to my giant witch's hat, and he seems very happy up there. So that is everything that I made in 2024. Like I say, I've got 66 things written down in my journal, although 2 of those entries are the 34 scrunchies that I made, and then there's also like the key fob and the bookmark, and then I've made more of those, so I've probably made more individual items than that, but I think 62 pieces were bags and clothing pieces, and I'm happy with most of them. I am going to do a top 5 hits and misses from the year so that I can go into more depth. This video is already really long and I'm talking about more depth, but yeah, I can go into greater detail about some of those pieces and the reason that they either worked or didn't work for me. But 2024 has definitely been the year of TNTs. With all the other stuff that I had going on in my life, not to say that I'm a special snowflake or anything like that, you know, there was a bunch of different things happening health-wise and mental health-wise, and I definitely retreated into comfort sewing. The year previously I had tried to do the projects that scare me and kind of like epically failed at quite a lot of those. I definitely retreated into the side of sewing for me that is, I want to come out at the other end of this project with a pretty thing that I know I'm going to like and I know that I'm going to wear. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that kind of sewing, especially if you're the kind of person like me who enjoys having multiples of patterns that you know you wear frequently in different either colours or textures or just different tweaks of sleeves and skirt proportions or styles. I have always been the kind of person that if I find something that I like, and when I used to buy clothes on the high street, and I know I've told you guys this before, the worst offender I think was the All Saints Russian doll skirt, and I think I had it in 25 different fabric types and colours, and there was some dip dye ones and short and long, and I just really loved that skirt. Didn't fit me very well at all in fact, but I bought all of them because it was just like, oh, it's fitted on the waist and it's full and it's floofy and I love it. And yeah, that definitely goes to show that having, I think I've now got 14 8577s, and I can see myself making more in the future because I just wear it so frequently and feel so good in it, and I definitely am one of those people who wants to feel good in my clothing. I appreciate that it's maybe not the most exciting thing for you, especially watching this year's back. There is a lot of repeats and I hadn't quite realised how many repeats that there are in here and how few new things that I had tried, but it was what I needed to do for my mental health and for my happiness this last year was to like indulge in making things up in fabrics that were precious to me. There was a lot of precious fabrics that got cut into this year, and I think that's one of the nice things about TNT projects is that like I could never get this silk again ever. I could get similar silks, but I can never get this exact silk again, and the fact that I've made something from it that I have worn frequently in other iterations and that I know that I love and I think suits me makes me really happy and makes me much more confident about cutting into that precious fabric. So lots of TNTs, but lots of successes, very few fails this year, which really makes me happy because, as I say, the year before there were a lot of fails and there were a lot of things that went wrong. I'm hoping 2025 is going to have a slightly better balance for you guys. Like I say, I am limiting myself to 12 TNTs, so 1 a month. Having said that, I've already done 2 TNTs this month, but they were cut out and half completed last year, so do they count? I'm not sure. You'll have to let me know. But I'm pleased with everything that I've sewn in 2024, and I'm really looking forward to trying some new things and some slightly more extravagant things in 2025. You'll have to let me know in the comments section down below which is your favourite, and do you agree with me about some of the ones that I said I am less than happy with, because I would love to hear what you guys think. If you've enjoyed this video, you might want to check out last year's.